Hope everyone's having a great Thursday midday of the day across the Centex here and wherever you're listening. Almost the pre-weekend, not quite there yet, which means we're getting closer and closer to Texas baseball. The Super Regionals, the Longhorns taking on the Stanford Cardinal. Craig Way, he is on his way out to Palo Alto today, so he'll not be in for today's show. Jeff Howe will be in shortly. And so you're going to have me for the first couple seconds here before Jeff comes back in. But should be a really fun show today. Going to get to some Denver Nuggets, Miami Heat Game 3 talk. Probably going to move things around a little bit. So when Jeff gets in closer to about 10:45, 11 o'clock hour, we're going to move the Longhorn notebook a little bit back so we can get a lengthier notebook for you guys. Maybe move Conceivable around the flex segment up just a little bit earlier. But first, I wanted to start out with some LIV and PGA Tour talk. You guys know me by now. I'm a big golf guy, and what better than get an expert on the situation? So I'm pleased to go to the Vaqueros Cafe and Cantina hotline to welcome in a golf.com contributor, Zephyr Melton. You can follow him on Twitter at Zephyr Melton. Zephyr, thanks for coming on, man. How you doing?
Cameron, thanks for having me, man. Happy to be here.
Of course. Now it's been 2 days since the news of the PGA Tour, DP World Tour, and the Saudi Public Investment Fund merger. We don't really know a lot about it, but I think what we do know, Zephyr, is this is far from being complete. The DOJ could still block this. The PGA Tour Policy Board, the PAC Board, they could block this and it's not really a merger, Zephyr.
That's correct. Yeah, it's more of a forming of a new entity that will be a joint venture between the PGA Tour, the DP World Tour, which is known also as the European Tour, and then the Saudi Public Investment Fund. So it's creating a new entity. What that entity will look like and how it will operate, we're not really sure on so far. We just know that that's kind of their plan, and like you said, there's a lot of steps they've got to go through before this becomes official. But yeah, they've made the announcement. That's their intention. So yeah, pretty crazy.
So hypothetically, let's just have some fun here. If this goes through, do you think it's going to be good for the game of golf, or do you think it's going to be bad for the game of golf?
I mean, I think it will be good for the game of golf in that the game will be unified. We'll have, not as much strife amongst some of the major stakeholders. So in that respect, yeah, it'll be good for the game of golf. But another way of looking at it is now the Saudi Public Investment Fund has a ton of pull in the game, and they kind of I hesitate to say they own the game, but they do have a large seat at the table now, and that's a little different than I think any of us thought would be the case about a week ago.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because for a while now, I think Saudi has been trying to find their way into the American sports ecosystem. It kind of started maybe with Formula One. Now that's become so big here in the States. We've seen what is going on in soccer. They've already signed Ronaldo to a massive deal. They just signed Benzema. They almost pried away Leo Messi. He's going to stay in the MLS, actually. But they've been trying to get into the game of golf, both on the men's and women's sides. And now it feels like the Saudis, with this move, they kind of used LIV as a stepping stool to get to where they wanted to go. Now they're there and starting to take over the world of sports.
Yeah, I mean, you said it. They've made it very clear that they want to be a big time player in sports, and I mean they are making pretty good headway there. So yeah, now they're a major player in golf, whereas 48 hours ago, they were they were just a disruptor, and now they are a major player with a seat at the table. So, yeah, very interesting to see how that all unfolded.
Yeah, 48 hours ago, the biggest news was what Phil Mickelson was responding to Brandel Chambly on Twitter. Now we have this. Talking with Sefer Melton of golf.com. Sefer, Alan Jipmuk had a good piece this morning on Fire Pit Collective about the future of Live Golf with Greg Norman. Now, a lot of the storyline, of course, here is the Live Golf, but it's really the Saudi part that's the biggest part, but still some do care about Live Golf. And Greg Norman telling everyone at Live Golf, I guess yesterday or the day before, that Live isn't going anywhere, even though apparently he found out 10 minutes before the news dropped that this was going to be a merger. But what do you think becomes the Live Golf Tour?
That's a good question. I think what Jay Monahan had said is that they're going to let the season play out, and then at the end of the year they're going to do an audit of kind of that entire ecosystem that Live has created, kind of see what works, what doesn't, and go from there. So it's really impossible to say what will happen to Live. But yeah, I can't see how it stays existing in its current form. But we shall see. All this is just pure speculation at this point.
Yeah, for sure. I'd be curious to see if Live does become part of the fall wraparound season, if it gets mixed up maybe in between the elevated events as a takeover the elevated events. Rory McIlroy has been a guy who's been front and center for Jay Monahan. He's been very vocal against anti-Live, vocal for the PGA Tour. But then all this comes out. If you're Rory McIlroy, if you're another PGA Tour player, how are you able to trust what Jay Monahan is going to do going forward?
Yeah, I think that's the million or billion dollar question at this point, is how does anyone trust Jay? I think if you watched Rory's press conference yesterday, you could see he was obviously pretty hurt by the way that it all went down and how he was not really privy to the information that he needed. And so yeah, I mean, it any of those big players, like, I don't know how you trust them at this point. Jay kind of torpedoed that trust in one CNBC interview earlier this week whenever they made the announcement. So yeah, at this point, I don't know how the players can trust him. I think that's gonna kind of be his goal over the next few months, is rebuilding that trust and trying to get the big time players to buy in again. So we'll see if that will be able to happen.
And Jay did meet with some of the PGA Tour players at the RBC Canadian Open. Apparently the meeting was pretty tense heated. It included Grayson Murray, who I honestly did not know was still on the tour, calling for a change in leadership. Apparently there was some applause. Rory McIlroy told Murray to play better. Murray cussed him out. I'm just curious, what was your biggest takeaway from the players' meeting, if there was anything else that you heard from it?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, we don't know a ton about what happened, just kind of the things that have been reported. There was no media inside, so we have a writer up there who's been snooping around trying to get to the bottom of all this. But yeah, from what we've heard, it was a very tense meeting. Players were justifiably not too pleased with Jay, and the announcement, just based on the last 2 years of what's been transpiring. So yeah, players were not too pleased, but that was pretty raw emotion that everyone was going through. So over the next few weeks, as things start to cool down a little bit, I think we'll get a better sense of what the temperature of that room actually was.
And while we await to find out what really happens here, there is the possibility that whether you like or dislike this agreement, we're going to have the Live guys back playing the same events, possibly on the PGA Tour, and that includes Brooks Koepka, Dustin Johnson, and others. But it's not going to be an easy process for them to get back, and it doesn't mean that they're all going to be eligible to play in the Ryder Cup this year, right?
Yeah, my understanding is that this year is going to continue kind of as it has, where they will be separate. The Live guys will be doing their thing, the PGA Tour guys will be doing their thing, and the Ryder Cup kind of stipulations will remain intact. So I don't think we're going to see all those European guys who renounced their membership be on that team, because I think at the end of the year, will have to go through a reinstatement process. They'll have to have suspensions, pay fines, whatever that looks like. So I think throughout the rest of this year, everything is going to kind of remain the way we've seen it, maybe with a little bit less animosity in the press. But yeah, for now, everything remains the same.
And of course, this doesn't just affect the PGA Tour and the DP World Tour. It also is going to have an effect on golf on a broader scale, right? The Korn Ferry Tour. And even the women's side. Sephiroth, I know you've done a lot of great coverage on the women's side, and the pay has always been an issue, right? What the women make is stark in contrast compared to what the PGA Tour guys can make. And if you're a player on the LPGA Tour and you get offered some of the money that you didn't even dream of making, it makes sense to take that money, even though it might be quote unquote blood money or sports washing.
Yeah, I mean, it's there hasn't been a ton of movement on the women's front in terms of Live and anything like that. At least over the last 6 months or so, I know there were some preliminary conversations last fall, just like some some feelers that were put out. I've confirmed that with agents and a couple players, but yeah, nothing really has happened lately on that front. But now that the Saudis have cozied up to the PGA Tour, I would find it hard to believe that they wouldn't try some sort of similar thing with the LPGA Tour in the coming years. But like you said earlier, there are a lot of steps to go through before we even get this Live PGA Tour, DP World Tour kind of deal over the finish line. So there are many steps to take before we can even start thinking about the women being folded into this as well.
That is for sure. Talking with Sephiroth Melton of golf.com. Now, that's enough PGA Tour Live talk. U.S. Opens next week over in Los Angeles, California, the LACC Country Club. Sephiroth, I saw your cameo in No Lings Up Media Day video, so I know you got a chance to play the course. What did you make of it?
Oh man, it's just a fabulous golf course. It's it's very cool. It's kind of right in the middle of Hollywood. It's so it's gonna make for a really cool setting. The course is very interesting. It's the front nine kind of wraps through a little valley on the back nine, canyon kind of thing. So it's a little tighter, a little you need to kind of place your ball a little better. The back nine opens up a little more. It's kind of up on the hillside, so there's a little more room out there. It's definitely one of the more interesting courses I've ever played, and I'm excited to see how the pros tackle it next week.
There's 5 par 3s on this golf course, including ranging rather from 85 yards to 290 yards. So it feels like the par 3s are going to play a huge part in this tournament, especially I believe there's par 3 on the 16th hole. So it feels like this course is really going to favor the ball strikers.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. With the U.S. Opens, you can't fake it. You've got to show up and hit the shots. But like you said, yeah, the par 3s are very interesting. They've got the short hole that, when we played it, I think it was playing like 95 yards. And then, as you alluded to, the monstrous 11th hole, I believe it is, can play up to 290 yards down the hill. So, yeah, there's a variety of shots that you'll need to be able to hit. I think it'll make players hit just about every club in their bag. It's going to be really fun to see.
Now, for Media Day, did you guys play it at the full 290 yards?
We did not. No, that would be a little too much golf hole for I think most media members. So we played at a much more reasonable. I think it played at 230 while we were out there, so definitely not short. But no, we did not tip it all the way out.
People would be hitting drivers at that hole. Okay,
Yeah, no doubt.
one of the last questions I got for you. Early pick. Who do you think wins the U.S. Open next week?
Well, I'll pander to my audience a little bit, but we got to go with Scotty here.
Yeah.
I mean, his ball striking has been unbelievable all year. Obviously, the putter has been a huge issue. He's not been rolling it well, but he's been hitting the ball so well that he's finishing in the top 5 just about every week. And if he doesn't even need to be an average putter to win. He just needs to not be one of the worst in the field. And I think he'll be there right at the end.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Scotty. I know you followed him extensively during your time at UT, on the Corn Ferry Tour, during his rise. His ball striking has actually been better than it was last year, but his putting, I believe it was one of the worst at the Memorial last week. It was one of the worst at the PGA Championship on Saturday that really cost him a chance to win that tournament. It was awful at the Charles Schwab. I mean, we can all be Butch Harmon here and analyze what we see watching the broadcast, but what do you think the issue is with his putting when it's been one of the worst of the season, yet he still has managed to get 2 wins and hasn't had a worse finish outside T11th since the CJ Cup in South Carolina back in October of 2022?
Yeah, I really don't know what the issue is with this putter. I've not seen him enough in person and talked to him enough about it to really know. And obviously the margins are so slim that it can be the most minuscule thing that causes you to have issues. But I mean, like you said, it's certainly been an issue and something to keep an eye on, but he's hitting the ball so good that it's impossible not to like him next week.
Yeah, he'll be going in as one of the favorites along with Jon Rahm and Rory McIlroy. Last one for you, Seth, before we let you go. Now, I know you went to UT, but you're also from the Lubbock area, and there's a golfer who played his college golf in Lubbock, Ludwig Aberg, who's making his PGA Tour debut this week as a professional. He was already 4 under through 9 holes. He's 3 under through 12, tied for 4th. So are you a big Ludwig guy, or because you're a Longhorn, you kind of don't want to, root for a Red Raider, or what's going on here? What's your thoughts on this sensational kid, Ludwig Aberg?
Oh man, I haven't watched Ludwig enough, but I've just heard so many good things about him. Talking to Coach Sands up there in Lubbock, he raves about him. So obviously, we'll put allegiances aside here, and I'll say I'm a Ludwig fan. I think he'll be good for the game. He seems like the next European with star potential, so it will be exciting to see how his career pans out. But yeah, making a splash in his pro debut right now.
Yeah, no doubt. It'll be fun to watch for years to come, especially in the Ryder Cup. Sefer, thanks so much for your time. We appreciate you stopping by.
Cameron, thanks for having me. We'll talk soon.
All right. See you, man.
Thanks.
That's Sefer Melton of golf.com. You can check him and find him out on Twitter at Sefer Melton. A great follow here as we get really into the deep things with this Live PGA Tour stuff. Who knows what's going to happen with this process? Like Sefer said, we are very, very early into this. It does not mean next week you're going to see Brooks Koepka and Dustin Johnson back on the PGA Tour. It might not be most likely until next season, but one thing we do know is there's going to be a lot of drama involved, and there's going to be a lot of major shakeups, I think, on the PGA Tour, starting with Jay Monahan. Glad you guys are joining with us here on this Thursday mid-morning in Austin, Texas. We got some Texas baseball talk coming up. Craig Way, he is on his way out to California with the Longhorns. We'll face the Stanford Cardinal. Can the Horns get their 39th College World Series appearance? We're going to hear from Jeff Howe, his thoughts on that. He'll be joining us here very shortly. Get his thoughts on that. More things, the Longhorn no buck, little inconceivable, and a Flex ATX update. But coming up next, we're going to get some Denver Nuggets in Miami Heat talk. Game 3, Nuggets back in front.
However, you are consuming your sports, whether you're talking PGA Tour or Live, or you're not going to watch that. You're going to watch NBA Finals. You're going to watch Stanley Cup Finals, Major League Baseball, postseason college baseball, or maybe just the entertainment thing. Linda and I were streaming watching Ted Lasso last night, trying to get caught up on that. But you don't, however you're consuming your television and audio entertainment, and it's not the way you want it to be, the easiest and most simple answer, certainly, is our good friend Tom McKay in Audiovisual Consultations. They have the equipment, knowledge, the expertise, and they can work within your vision for your den, family room, or man cave living room, your outside patio, wherever that might be. Work within your vision to help you be able to get it how you want, where you don't have to worry about the mounting, the equipment, and bracketing things and all that, let alone having to go out to the big box stores to make those purchases. And not only that, Tom's keeping his prices competitive. He's not raising prices like so many of the other big box and retail dealers as well. Check him out on the web at avconsultations.com. Then give Tom a call when you're ready. He'll take your call, 512-255-8678. Let Tom McKay and Audio Visual Consultations help you realize the home entertainment system of your dreams.
Spend my days with a woman unkind, smoke my stuff and drink all my wine. Made up my mind, make a new start, going to California with an aching in my heart.
I wonder if Craig Way listens to this song as he
Someone told me there's
getting ready to board, maybe already boarded, on the way, in the air, the Texas baseball team as they travel out to California. The Palo Alto for the Super Regionals, Texas, and number 8 seed Stanford as the Longhorns try and earn their 39th appearance in the College World Series out in Omaha. David Pierce and the Horns, they've made it back-to-back trips to Omaha. And here's a little nugget for Texas fans if you're hopeful that the Longhorns can pull off the upset. David Pierce has not lost a Super Regional Series. Remember, since 2017, his first season, they lost in the Long Beach Regional. He's now undefeated since then in the regionals. And he's not lost a Super Regional Series yet. So we'll see. Either way, it's going to be a real fun weekend all across the college baseball level. So Texas and Stanford, they're going to get started on Saturday. You'll be able to hear all of it right here on the Horn with Craig Way himself, Saturday and Sunday, and if necessary, I believe it's a Monday game. I'll double check that for you guys, make sure I'm accurate, but it'll be Sav. It's also Saturday, 5 p.m. Central Time. You can listen right here on the Horn. If you want to watch, maybe sync up Craig Way to your TV, ESPN2 for sure. Sunday, Monday, those two games, TBA, there will be a game 2. Have not heard what time the game will be. It'll probably be on the ESPN family of networks for both game 2 and game 3 if necessary, but Texas looking to earn their 39th trip to Omaha. Jeff Howe will be here shortly. We'll get some Longhorn notebook, maybe some more Texas baseball discussion. I want to save that for him, but before we get into our Flex ATX update, I want to talk about last night's Game 3 between the Denver Nuggets and the Miami Heat. And actually, before that, I'd be remiss if I did not open up the Specs text line. 512-337-3776. A text coming in. I mentioned that you won't see the Live guys on the PGA Tour next week. Well, I mean, technically you will because it's the U.S. Open, so you will see those guys. But I see what you meant, Texture. See what you meant. They won't be a PGA Tour card carrying member. We'll be playing an event that it will be co-sanctioned with the PGA Tour. That will be the U.S. Open out at the Los Angeles Country Club, the North Course. If you missed the first part of the show, if you want to get your Live Golf PGA Tour fix, maybe some U.S. Open early preview, Seth Melton of golf.com stopped by. Really great discussion as the game of golf has been severely disrupted, kind of being pieced back together, a little bit of glue and tape. We'll see what ends up in the world of golf, but one thing we do know is that it's far from being over with. You know what else is far from being over with? That's the NBA Finals, although Denver on top in Game 3 last night in Miami, a critical rubber match game after the Miami Heat were able to tie things back up in Game 2. And obviously, after every game, we kind of look at it and we have our reactions, but we don't really know. We don't get the full view of what happened right until sometimes a game later. I think that's the case with Game 2. The Heat, they shot 68% in the fourth quarter, 50% from 3. And they only won by 3 points. Now, you could say it was just one of those fluke games, but I mean, when you've made it this far in the NBA Finals, you're not winning based on just pure luck, right? The Miami Heat are a good basketball team. The thing is, they're playing an even better basketball team in the Denver Nuggets. So, for Miami to really win this series, even have a chance, they need those Game 2 recipes where it felt like, you know, Denver, they won Game 1, but it wasn't their best, right? I feel like the Nuggets have a higher ceiling of how good they can play. They hung on for Game 1. I think in Game 2, they were sloppy defensively. Coach Mike Malone said, you know, when looking back at the tape in the film, there was 40 points that the Denver Nuggets gave up just on defensive mismatches. 40 points. Tim Legler of ESPN counted 9 3-pointers made by Miami that were just off of mismatches. Duncan Robinson started the fourth quarter in Game 2 with 10 straight points. Jimmy Butler didn't really have a Jimmy Butler game, and Miami still won. And so I think a lot of people thought, okay, if Butler can play even to his level that we saw in the Boston series, Miami can win this thing. But I think people kind of forgot that, you know what, the Denver Nuggets, you know, they have a higher ceiling. And we saw that ceiling last night in Game 3. Halftime, Miami Heat, they had one turnover at home. Who thinks winning at halftime? Not the Miami Heat. They were down by 5 points despite only turning over the ball once. I believe they went to the fourth quarter with just one turnover as well. They played a great first half, I thought. But you know who played better in the first half? The Denver Nuggets. Jokic. He came out and he continued to play like the best player in the world. Jamal Murray was everywhere. And defensively, I thought they were a lot better in communication. The effort was there. Game 2 was just kind of like, yeah, you know, we know we're better than you, so we're not going to give you 100%. I felt like the Nuggets kind of played 80% in Game 2. I did not feel that way last night. They were everywhere. And looking at in the third quarter, Michael Porter Jr., he got hammered for his performance in Game 2, and rightfully so. I mean, defensively, he was watching the ball. He looked like the MPJ, you know, when he came in as a rookie. A lot of question marks were about his defense. We know he's talented, but defensively, where's his effort going to be? Well, he tried. In Game 2, it wasn't there, but last night, he was everywhere in that third quarter, I thought. It was a 5-point lead. I was going into the fourth quarter. It was 14, but in that third, Denver had up to 19 points. I mean, Porter Jr. was all over the place contesting shots, and it wasn't just Michael Porter Jr. It was everyone defensively. Aaron Gordon, I thought, had an incredible game, not only on the boards, but on the defensive side. I mean, Jokic finished with, we'll get to Jokic in just a second, because what he did last night was absolutely absurd. But Jokic, who had, if I can find it, he had 21 rebounds last night, but Denver out-rebounded Miami by, I believe, 25. I know if you took away Jokic's 21 rebounds, Denver still out-rebounded Miami by 4. By 4. That's how much Denver dominated Miami on the glass. And it started from the jump in that third quarter, really extended their lead. Miami had a big 5-0 run to close the quarter. They went back to the zone. I think it was a 1-3-1 zone. At one point, they forced a Jokic turnover, and then they got a shot that was missed as well. But also, one guy really heated up in that third quarter. Christian Braun. Oh man. The former Kansas standout, national champion, a rookie. He was kind of a fringe rotation guy in the playoffs, been getting a little bit of minutes. He took over Game 3 in the fourth quarter. I mean, he started out, he had a couple big buckets to end the third quarter, and then in the fourth, he had a, let me find it real quick. First of all, he had a huge and one opportunity after Murray found him off a double team. He had a drive in on Jimmy Butler where he just was more physical, put up a right-handed floater. He had 15 points in that game. We mentioned Duncan Robinson's fourth quarter in Game 2, right? Those 10 points. I mean, these games are decided. You know, you have the performances from Jokic and Murray and Bam and Butler, but a lot of times there's that one random guy that has a big run that changes the game. It was Robinson in Game 2. Last night, it was Christian Braun. And defensively was everywhere. He had the big steal that turned into that right-handed hammer to the end of the third quarter. I think it was maybe the fourth quarter. But that spurred really Denver to take control of the fourth quarter, right? And then Miami came out. They had a big 7-0 run. They thought, oh, okay. Now they're kind of getting their way back into it. A couple turnovers forced possibly, I think, by the zone. Coach Spo trying to turn to it. One thing I did like that Denver changed was in Game 2, we saw Jokic kind of standing on the free-throw line. They moved Jokic more into the dunker spot. That allowed for, when Jokic has the ball, everyone's going to be watching him, right? So with Miami watching Jokic from the dunker spot, it felt like Denver was cutting more. And I think also in Game 2, you know, the cuts to the basket kind of were at 80%. But in this one, whether it was Porter Jr. or Bruce Brown, who had a couple big defensive plays too on Bam Adebayo to start that fourth quarter, or even Christian Braun. Braun had a couple cuts to the basket, and they went both ways. Braun also would penetrate, and he would find Jokic, and Jokic would get an easy layup. So even after that 7-0 run for Miami, lead was down to 14. Both teams started trading a couple jumpers. Jamal Murray had this ridiculous fadeaway double team jumper. Then Gabe Vincent had a big bank. KCP was fouled off a great feed from Jokic, cutting the basket again. Cutting to the basket. It's what Denver does so well, is moving without the ball in your hands. That led to 2 free throws. And Kyle Lowry got down to 14 points. And I thought this was possibly the biggest point in the game because there was about 4 or 5 minutes left to go. The lead is 14. Jokic got in the paint, missed a layup that rolled out. So Miami has the ball, and Jimmy Butler had a 3-point shot on the left wing, and I thought Aaron Gordon did a great job. We saw in Game 2, right, KCP had 2 fouls on 3-pointers that really just absolutely killed Denver's momentum. One was on Kyle Lowry at the end of that fourth quarter. It led to 3 free throws. Lowry hit all 3, allowed Miami to win that game. Remember, by 3 points. But in this one, it felt like Denver was playing more defensively, was playing smarter, right? Aaron Gordon, great contest. Great contest, didn't foul him. Butler would miss that 3-pointer, and then right after that was with 4 minutes to go, Jokic had a huge layup over Bam Adebayo. And that was basically curtains. Miami would get it back down to 13. There was a weird part in that game where, I don't know if you guys saw it, but the lead was down to about 13 with 2 minutes left, and Spo was already subbing out Butler and Bam. And Lowry, it was like, I mean, there's still a chance, right? And then Duncan Robinson, back-to-back threes, got it down to 9 points, but there was not enough time left. And by then, Spo had already kind of put the reserves in. But what a huge fourth quarter for Denver. The first two games, Miami outscored Denver in the fourth quarter, and then I don't know if you guys caught it in the ESPN, mic'd up segment going to the fourth. Mike Malone told his team, let's win this fourth quarter. And they did, 27-26. Now, Miami had a couple of big points in garbage time. Robinson, those couple threes. So really, it was more laps. It wasn't as close as the box score indicated. But that's the Denver team that we've seen all year long, right? And we didn't see it in game 2. Maybe they just need a little wake-up call, something to spur them. But when they play like that in all cylinders, they're the best team in the world. And it's why I think Denver still wins this series 5 or 6 points. Real quick on Jimmy Butler in the fourth quarter. Now, he finished the game with team-high 28 points. Do you guys know what he did in fourth last night? 0 for 2 from the floor with 2 points. I'm sorry. I'm not going to cut it. Not going to cut it. The team's best player, you're going 0 for 2 in a must-win Game 3 at home in the fourth quarter. I mean, I'm curious if there's an ankle injury with Butler. We know he got banged up earlier in the playoffs. Maybe it's really impeding him right now. But, I mean, there's times in the fourth quarter in the series where it just feels like, oh, Jimmy's on the floor. That's right. Oh, okay. Bam Adebayo's been the best player for the Miami Heat this entire series. On offense, on defense. It's felt like Bam's team. Jimmy, he has not felt like the Jimmy we saw in the Celtics series last week or 2 weeks ago, whenever it was, where he was dominating on defense, on offense. He was talking smack. He was letting the Celtics know who was the best player on the floor, even if it may have been Tatum. Butler felt like he was. In this series, no, it's you're not even the best player on your team right now, dude. And maybe it is injury. Maybe you find out after the season ends, oh yeah, Butler, his ankle was messed up. Well, part of winning a championship is being able to stay healthy. And if that's what's going to hurt Miami, then so be it. Denver's, part of it is just having injury luck. And Denver's been very fortunate. On Jokic, last night, finished with 32 points, 21 rebounds, and 10 assists. He's the first player in NBA Finals history that put up 30, 20, and 10 in a game. And it feels like, okay, cool, man. That's cool. What Jokic is literally breaking records every single night in the league. I mean, there's only been only 5 times has a player put up 30, 20, and 10 in the NBA playoffs. 3 of those, Jokic. The other 2 guys, Wilt Chamberlain and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Every time Jokic breaks a record, that was last done by Wilt Chamberlain. Yeah, when there was, 16 teams in the league? And Chamberlain was the biggest guy by, 2 feet? Yeah, Jokic is breaking those records from a guy that did that, half a century ago? If you don't think Jokic is the best player in the planet, I don't know what else to tell you. An incredible game. Remember, he only had 4 assists in game 2. That was a huge part of, can Denver win if Jokic doesn't have more than 5 assists? It was a big part of it. But Mike Malone adjusted, moved Jokic around. I mentioned earlier from the dunker spot on the sideline. It felt like that really helped Denver kind of manipulate Miami's zone, because we know Spo is going to be playing that zone throughout the game. But Jokic, an incredible performance. Jamal Murray, 34, 10, and 10. He had some huge buckets in that fourth quarter. There was a layup, I think. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah. Lead was down to 15 points. It's still in that range of, it felt like Denver had it, but, maybe Miami, a couple threes. Who knows what happens? It was after Bam was fouled. Lead was down to 15. Murray got a switch with Bam, drove to his right, and threw up this circus layup shot. If you know what I'm talking about, I thought at first it hit the top of the backboard. And I think Mike Breen, who is, I think, by far the best play-by-play broadcaster on the planet right now, I think Mike Breen even thought it also hit the top because I think he waited to see if, wait, does that ball go out of bounds? No. And on replay, it didn't. It hit the very top of the backboard. Incredible touch. It would go in. He would go back up to 17. That may have been curtains. There are multiple times in the fourth quarter where you think this game's over with. I mean, Miami, I think it was Gabe Vincent put up a three-pointer that didn't even hit rim, and then Denver would come back to get a couple free throws. Felt like the game was over anyway, but Jamal Murray, it's a great finals win for him, a great season. It's been so much fun to watch Jamal Murray and what he's done this season. Game 4, couple days. I mean, we use must win a lot. I use it a lot. It feels like if Miami doesn't win, then I think Denver gets it in 5 at home. I mean, if Denver plays like that last night, it's going to take a game 2 type performance where Miami's just going to have to shoot 70% in the quarter in half of their threes. It's the only way. Do we know maybe is Tyler Hero going to come back? I've heard some theories that, okay, Miami was just trying to bide as much time as possible before Hero could come back. He mentioned he's been participating in shoot-around before games the entire postseason, but, he's felt like his hand just isn't quite 100%. Does Miami maybe push to bring him back? But is he even enough to really change the outcome of this series? Those are my thoughts on NBA Finals Nuggets. I think Nuggets get it done in 5, guys. I think it's 5. Jokic and Jamal Murray, an incredible duo. And shout out Christian Braun as well for what his performance did in last night, Game 3. All right. Don't worry. I know a lot of people clamoring for some Texas baseball talk. I'm done with the NBA. No more golf talk, no more NBA talk, I promise. I swear. Jeff Howe, he's almost here. We're going to get you some Longhorn Notebook and more coming up here as Light the Tower on the Horn continues.
Here we are headed into the summer. You've heard me tell you about Divided Sky Roofing and Solar and how we all know they do great roofs. But they're also a great full-service solar company. So as we transition into our hottest season, we all know that's when higher power bills start arriving. So why not be prepared and save money this summer with the new Timberline solar shingle roof? Or maybe you already have a solar system. Maybe you have panels or shingles, but you don't have a backup battery. If you don't have a backup battery, then you would be wasting money, because with a backup battery, you're able to use all the power you make instead of giving it back to the power company. And the batteries are now covered by the Inflation Reduction Act, so you get that tax credit, and we can certainly all use that. John Hardy and his staff are solar experts. They can repair and service your existing solar systems. The other roofers that you hear about are just selling you a solar roof. Divided Sky Roofing Solar can repair and service your existing solar system. They're a true resource, and they can really help extend the life of your system. The crew, all of them, master electricians, they're all NABCET certified. That's the solar version of the master plumber. So why not trust your roofing and solar needs to the experts, our friends at Divided Sky Roofing and Solar? It's license number 37397. You can check them out at dividedskyAustin.com or give them a call at 512-995-ROOF. When the wind blows high, and we all know it will again, call our friends at Divided Sky Roofing and Solar.
All right, wrap up hour number 1 here on Light the Tower. Gonna move Inconceivable back because getting some news that Jeff Howe is around the corner. So I know you guys, you want to get your Texas Longhorn fix. We're gonna get that. Longhorn Notebook, possibly some Inconceivable. First, little Flex 30 update for you. The Texas high school baseball state championships are underway this week. Games being played at the Disch-Falk Field and the Dell Diamond 1A. Well, semifinals have been wrapped up. Abbott beat Kennard 5-4. Fayetteville beat Nazareth 4-0 in the 1A. So right now, Abbott and Fayetteville playing in the 1A state championship game at Dell Diamond. Abbott is up on Fayetteville 6-3 in the bottom of the 7th. So if you want to get to the end of that, Abbott just 3 outs away from clinching a state championship. They had a great run all across the board. I think football, basketball, they've been absolutely killing it. So congrats to Abbott if they can hold on. Some 2A scores, the 2A finals. Shiner and Harleton, they're playing in the 2A championship game. That's going to follow right after that one. I think it's a 12 o'clock first pitch over at Dell Diamond. Now, if you want to watch any of these games, NFHSnetwork.com, they're going to have everything for you. You can also find stats if you want to keep up live stats. There is statbroadcast.com. Or just go to the UIL page, just Google machine, Texas, UIL High School Baseball. You can follow along. So, Shiner in Harleton, that's going to start here in just a bit. Other baseball scores for you. China Spring played Sinton last night, the number 1 ranked Sinton Pirates. I believe it's the vending state champions, rather. They lost last night. What an upset for China Spring. Remember, they beat the Taylor Ducks in a best-of-3 series, won it, games 2 and game 3, but China Spring knocking off Sinton, so they advancing to the 4A championship final first. Texarkana, who they knocked off Randall 15-5. 4A, actually, 4A and 5A, that will begin today as well. Magnolia West versus Frisco Reedy. That's the first game of 5A. 4A, China Spring versus Texarkana Liberty. That's going to be the 4A final later on today as well. And the last game tonight will be the other 5A semifinal game, Argyle versus Bernie champion. They knocked off Rouse. And, of course, Westlake will be in action tomorrow night, 7 o'clock, first pitch against Pearland as well. And before we hit the break here, last night was our Flex ATX podcast show. In case you missed it, we had McNeil Mavericks head coach Scott Hermes. He joined the program at the top of the hour. And then Westlake wideout Heath McCree, the 3-star wideout. He'll be a rising senior this year. He's getting some big luck from some big Power 5 programs. He joined the show with myself and Zach Lazaro. A great kid, some great stories. Remember, his brother, Texas fans, his brother is Lake McCree. Does that name ring a bell for you? It might. Now, Lake was a Lake Travis graduate. His brother Heath, a Westlake graduate. So there's some little rivalry already added to the brother relationship. So got a little insight on what it's like to have an older brother that plays for Lincoln Riley, that plays out for USC. So in case you missed it, it's on the Horn podcast page and the Flex ATX podcast page as well. All right, that wraps up hour 1 here on the Horn. Glad you stopped by. Hope you enjoyed all the PGA Tour Live talk, all the NBA talk, but got some good news for you guys. Jeff Howe, back in the building.
I'm here.
You're back, baby.
Personal business is done. Let's talk some Longhorn football.
Let's do it.
Do that right after we come back here for hour number 2 of Light the Tower on the Horn. Live, local, and digital on the Horn app and at hornfm.com.
For you, the listener, it's hour number 2. For me, it's hour number 1, and my only hour of the show today, because I had quite an adventure this morning. But yes, good to be here. Let's Hour. I am Jeff Howe. Craig Way out today on his way to Stanford for the Stanford Super Regional. Cameron Parker behind the glass doing an outstanding job the first hour, Cameron.
Oh, thank you, Joe.
Very
So,
good.
like, because you're out hour 1, does that mean I get to leave for hour 2?
Well, if you did that, the show would be terrible. It would just be me talking nonstop for an hour because I don't know how to do anything. I'd have to wait till Isaiah or somebody got here to run the board because
Okay.
I don't know how to do that. I can't push the buttons back there.
Okay, I'll just tell him to double my pay, I guess, right?
Can push the buttons, but it'd be a big old mess. Specs text line is open 337-3776. I didn't catch all of Cam during the first hour, and probably this was when you were doing the flex update, which I was on my way like out of the car and up the elevator, which is why I didn't hear it. You left out the ILU and Liberty ILU.
Yeah, as we know, spec texters love them to death. They will correct you if you mispronounce the Texas city name, and I'm not from Texas, so I'm still learning. I'm still learning the names. I think I got Waxahachie down. Did I say it right?
Yeah.
See, I'm getting there. I saw Texarkana, Liberty, ILO, and I was like, I don't know how to say ILO, so I just said Liberty. Thank you to the texter saying ILO is how you pronounce it. Last night we had an issue with Pearland because one of the flex hosts said it wrong. And of course, Specs text line to the rescue again to remind us how to say these names correctly.
Cam, can you tell me the most famous alum of Liberty ILO High School?
I can't.
In my opinion, I'm sure Liberty ILO folks will argue that it could be somebody else. I'm going to go with Michael James.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. I'm going to go with Michael
the
James.
Speed Demon.
Yes. Went to Oregon, played for the 49ers.
So he was part of the Marcus Mariota team, right? That was, I think, when Oregon was at the peak of popularity because they had the millions jerseys, right? But they also had like the wings on it, and you saw how fast the Michael James was off of kickoff returns, and in that Kelly offense, man, that was a fun Oregon team to watch.
Yeah, Michael James was 2011 was his last season. Oregon made a Rose Bowl that year. DeAnthony Thomas DeAnthony Thomas, I think, was class of 2010. If I remember right. Thomas was Royce Freeman also was with Mariota, so a really, really talented Oregon team. So yeah, I'll probably go get Trey Carson, Brandon Jones, the former OU wide receiver, played in the NFL for a little bit. He went to Liberty ILO. So you got a couple of guys, but I'll go with Michael James. That's a fun game to play when you can look at teams in like the state basketball tournament or the state baseball tournament and say, hey, who's the most famous alum that went to school there? And it's kind of a fun game to play. Just let you know all across the state, all over the state, produce a lot of quality athletes, a lot of quality folks.
So playing this game for Westlake, who do you think is the most popular Westlake alum?
Drew Brees.
Think so?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Was there anybody else you were thinking of?
No, I think baseball, you think of Houston Street, right?
Houston, yeah. Kelly Gruber would be up there too.
Okay. For football, yeah, I guess it would have to be Drew Brees. So, yeah. And then, of course, Will Baker for basketball.
Chris Mim probably.
That was more of a joke.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chris Mim's pretty.
Yeah, I was if you went Will Baker or Luke Axtell, I was probably figuring you're doing a bit. So
Yeah.
But I just want everybody to know. I just want to cover you there before we get text. Oh, how come you couldn't take Chris Mim? He was a first-round pick and All-American.
And I'm not dogging on Will Baker. I like
No.
Will. I've worked with him a million times. He's a great kid. He's been doing great things outside of Texas.
Will Baker, the three-point maker, was at least he was when he was at Nevada.
Yeah.
Now he'd be doing it at LSU, be doing it in the SEC.
Go Tigers.
I'm just looking at the list of Westlake alums. Yeah, I think Drew Brees is probably Houston Street, Calvin Schiraldi, a lot of athletes, but yeah, it's Drew Brees. I think it's Drew Brees.
Not the only Super Bowl winning. Did Brees win the MVP against the Colts? I think he did, right? So is that 2 now Super Bowl MVPs that belong to Westlake High School? Because I know Nick Foles won MVP, right?
Yes, I want to say Brees did when they beat the Colts. Let's see. Yes, Drew Brees was Super Bowl MVP of Super Bowl 44.
When in doubt, just go with the quarterback, the winning team. That's usually
Trust me, I've been in the
MVP.
press box when you're voting on like bowl game MVPs and stuff or state championship game MVPs. You usually default to the quarterback.
yeah. Unless someone just had a standout performance that says otherwise, right?
Yeah. Like in the, what year would that have been? That would have been the 2018 state championships. If you didn't vote for Jordan Whittington
Yeah.
for Cuero, then there was something wrong with you.
We were
You
robbed.
didn't watch the same game everybody else did.
We were robbed. If the Colts lost to the Bears, of course, in the Super Bowl with Cedric Benson, the late Cedric Benson.
Other way around, Bears lost to the Colts.
What did I say?
Colts lost to the Bears.
Yes, sorry. Yeah. Colts beat the Bears. If Bears win that game, I think Devin Hester gets MVP, right?
Yeah.
Maybe not, but I think it would have been fun.
He'd have been in the
say,
mix for it, for sure.
because he would have been the first kickoff man since Green Bay guy. Who am I
Desmond
thinking?
Howard,
Desmond Howard. Yeah.
former Heisman winner
Yeah.
in Michigan. Didn't Stafford Jennings have a kick return for a touchdown for the Bengals back in what has been a Super Bowl 23 against the 49ers? I think I'm remembering that right. But at any rate, Kim, what do you say we talk some Longhorn football? Because we reported something really interesting at Horns 24/7 this morning. I want to get your take on it and get the listeners' take. Specs text line is open 337-3776. Let's go ahead and hit this notebook. I figured this would get the kind of reaction that it has on the flagship message board at Horns 24/7. So our lead tidbit in the Insider, Cam, is this, which that's our weekly collection of team VIP news, notes, and nuggets. We get the Stampede on Monday with the recruiting stuff. The Insider comes out on Thursday. This is really interesting, Cam. It's a tidbit about summer workouts, but maybe not what you would be thinking in terms of a summer workout tidbit.
Okay.
I'll read. This is a quote from a source to Horns 24/7 in the Insider verbatim about why Steve Sarkisian is changing the way plays are signaled. Now, we don't know what they're going to, right, or what the change is going to be. Quote, all of the cards that have been used, all of the signals from the sideline are completely being changed out. Sark got word teams were onto his signals. So the last several meetings and player coach practices have been dedicated to learning the new signals. For the players, this has all just begun, so it's like learning a new language in a lot of ways because there's a lot of information coming in from the sideline. Each position group has process. A player's ability to pick up these new signals is playing a big role in some of their ability to break into the two deep right now. The source said there were certain games, including last year's matchup against Alabama and UT's home game against TCU, quote, when it seemed like the other team knew what play was coming. The new special assistants, that being Paul Christ, Payam Sadat, and Jody Camillus, looked at last year's games and confirmed the concerns that opponents might have known Texas's signals, the source said. Getting those signals down have been, quote, a huge priority for the two deep, end quote. Quote, everything these players have known in terms of the way plays were communicated the last two seasons has changed, end quote. So, Cam, that is fascinating to me for a couple of reasons. Namely, again, props to our subscribers, our members at Horns 24/7. Could this explain at least some of the reason why Texas has struggled in second halves on Sark?
Wasn't this also an issue for Tom Herman's staff too, right?
Yes. You know, the first time I remember hearing this, I'm sure I heard about it before, but the first time I really remember hearing this.
About Harmon or Sark's staff?
No, this is back in 2004.
Oh, okay.
And Major Applewhite's told this story
Back
on
in
the
the day.
record. So, yeah. Word is Major Applewhite, who was a graduate assistant at the time, is walking through the football complex. And Greg Robinson, the late great Greg Robinson, did a fantastic job the 2 seasons he was at Texas in 2004 and in 2013, getting that defense turned around and putting actually a respectable product on the field by the end of the year after that debacle in Provo. Greg Robinson is in his office, and Major Applewhite's walking down the hall, and the TV in Greg Robinson's office is on full blast. The heck is going on? He goes in there, and Greg Robinson with the TV on full blast has got his ear up to the TV speaker. You know, the old school, like, box TVs. He's got his ear up to the speaker. And Major's like, what are you doing? He said, they don't change their signals. Their signals are the same. So basically, Tech kept the same signals, and that's the short of it, why Texas, I think it was 55-28 or a lot to not enough when Texas, 55-21 when Texas went out to Lubbock in 04 and beat Texas Tech because they didn't change their signals. And Greg Robinson pretty much knew what was coming, what calls to send in. So that's a big deal. You got to constantly be changing your signals, and it sounds like Sark fell victim to that. And I do wonder, you know, we talk all the time about in 1999, the dummy script game, the Texas OU game. Where
Mike Leach.
Tom Herman and Oscar Giles. Yeah, another thing involving Mike Leach. Tom Herman and Oscar Giles picked up the dummy script, took it to the press box, Bull Reese, and Texas took the bait, right? The script that they thought was the actual play sheet was a dummy script. So this is something that's constantly got to evolve. But that to me could at least in partly explain why second halves have been a big issue for this offense. Because if you're taking the first half, maybe you don't just want to go all in thinking, all right, maybe they changed them this week. And we know Sark is really, really good at designing opening script. Maybe you're just taking the first half to figure out, okay, when Sark gets into the flow of calling plays, what do their signals look like? And if you spend the first half thinking, okay, they're not going to change them, now we know what to expect in the second half, it makes it much easier to adjust when you know what's coming. So I'm not saying that excuses everything we've seen from Sark, but I would be naive to say that, all right, if you didn't change your signals, and we know stealing signals or looking at them, however you want to couch it, we know that goes on in college football, it goes on in pro football, that would at least explain part of it. It has to. You'd be naive to think that doesn't have something to do with the way this offense has struggled in the second half of games.
It's a little bit concerning, Jeff, I think, because Sark's been calling plays since his days at USC, right? So you feel like he would have a good grasp of, like, okay, how can I avoid other teams catching on to our calls, right? So that's a little weird that in this time at Texas that teams figuring out. And how this text from the Specs X line saying that their son worked for the West Virginia football team last year.
Wow.
And they knew every one of Texas's signals on offense.
That's wild.
What a contribution. Thank you, Specs Text.
That may be the best contribution we've ever gotten on the Specs Text line. Assuming this is legit, that would be the best contribution we've ever gotten. I think changing your signals, though, is easier said than done, right? Because, and I think for Sark, especially year one and even going into year two, there's still so much teaching you're doing with the offense you're trying to install that maybe you just want to make sure that everybody understands what's going on. Especially last year, I mean, you think about breaking in a new quarterback with Quinn Ewers, you couldn't change a whole lot, right? Especially on the fly. I mean, that'd be you hamstringing your own quarterback. You're putting him at a disadvantage. But I think now the ability to start fresh and start over, and look, you know, before you go to Tuscaloosa, you've got the Rice game to work the kinks out. You've got the Rice game to figure out how it's all going to go, and you got the camp scrimmages too. But you'll at least get that one game before you go to Tuscaloosa to try this out, give it a test drive, and see what's going on.
Yeah, they're installing this in the spring. That tells you it's not something they can change overnight. You mentioned that possibly being the best contribution to the Specs text line. What about this? Gary Patterson selling signals?
Come on now. That's,
No.
I don't know. That's I'm not buying into the GP conspiracy. Come on now. And Gary still comes around the program a little bit. As a matter of fact, I was showing up for I was parking my car for a spring availability, and I parked my car right there, not the staff lot, but you know that lot right next to Moncrief. I park right there, and pulling up next to me right at the same time because it's post-practice available. Yeah, GP pulls up. He'd been at practice and was just kind of hanging out, checking things out. What he said he would do. He said he'd come back from time to time.
It'd be fun to be around because you got Paul Chris there, you got Gary Patterson there. I mean, there's some great football minds. And going back to the insider piece on horns247.com, of course the signal part is huge, but maybe getting ahead of myself here, Jeff. Maybe stealing what you wanted to talk about.
No. That's the main thing I wanted to get to. Just get that out there because I do think it's important.
Outside of that, the biggest nugget as a Texas fan was that a team source told Horns 247 that Jonathan Brooks is going to run for at least 1,000 yards this year if he's fully healthy.
No, that's kind of the thing with him, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the only reason he didn't get more run in the Alamo Bowl was because he was already hurt, and Sark has since confirmed that. I think it was
It a hernia, right?
I don't remember if it was during the spring or one of the speaking tour gigs post spring ball, but he did say basically they had initially wanted to get Jonathan Brooks a lot of run in the bowl game, but then they realized he needed the hernia surgery, so that really cut down his reps.
Yeah.
Basically, he was good for exactly the number of reps they used him for. It just turns out one of those reps was a touchdown. But yeah, I mean, 1,000 yards, that's always a tough barometer to get to. Just assume guy's going to be 1,000-yard back. But I almost don't care if you have 1,000-yard back. I think if you can take the production of Bijan and Roschon and maybe split it up between 3 or 4 guys, I think you're gonna be just as fine. I do think this offense, last year's offense, I thought Sark did a good job. I won't say a perfect job or great job or ideal job, because I do think you left some meat on the bone, and I talked about that when Bijan made the announcement that he was turning pro. But I do think Sark did a good job of maximizing the advantage that Texas had over their opponents in terms of they had you can make the claim Texas had the best backfield in the country last year.
Oh, 100%.
With Bijan and Roschon.
100%.
And whether that was utilizing more 2-back sets, whether that was utilizing that 6 line package with Andre Carrick, running more 12 personnel with 2 tight ends as your base offense, basically you were doubling down on the advantage you had with those 2 talented backs. Again, left some meat on the bone in terms of how you use those guys. I mean, Bijan didn't get a target in the passing game in the TCU game, which, it was what it was.
You had to bring that up. You just had to.
It was what it was. Not going to go back down that road and beat that dead horse even more. But Sark did a good job. Where does the advantage lie for this offense? I think that's something that Sark has kind of spent the offseason really trying to pin down and figure, okay, where's your advantage? I think clearly you look at it and the advantages with your depth at wide receiver, the potential depth you've got, especially with Isaiah Nayer on the way back, the addition of A.D. Mitchell. Cam, I know you got a glimpse of Jonte Cook in spring. I think we can all agree he's really talented.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever you get from DeAndre Moore, Xavier Worthy, I'm wondering how he's going to be now with 2 fully functional hands. You've got the chance to have a real Jordan Whittington coming back. You've got the chance to be really good at receiver. I still think, as important as the tight end is in Sark's offense, I still think at the end of the day, what Bijan Robinson was to last year's offense, Jatavian Sanders is going to be to this year's offense.
Wow.
With Jatavian Sanders, and this kind of goes back a little bit about what we talked about yesterday with the blue chip ratio. And again, you can go to Orange 24/7. And get Bud Elliott's 24/7 Sports Blue Chip Ratio article to see kind of where Texas stands in the pecking order in terms of percentage of the roster that are blue chip prospects and where Texas ranks in the country. In terms of the talent you've got and then the talent at certain positions you've got, you can very much make the argument, and I'll probably agree with this if you wanted to tell me the statement as that you think is factual. Is Jatavian Sanders? I think he is. I think he's the best tight end in the country, not named Brock Bowers.
Mm-hmm.
Because Brock Bowers is tight end number 1 for everybody. I haven't seen everybody's. The preseason All-America lists are starting to come out. You'd be a dummy if you didn't have Brock Bowers as your first team tight end. But after that, dude, JT Sanders right in that mix, and I can very much make the case that he's number 1. Rod Babers just brought up this point of the blitz, and it's really weird to think about it because it'll only be 2 years. But then again, like Jermichael Finley will only play, assuming that JT goes pro after his junior season when he's draft eligible. But you only got 2 years out of Jermichael Finley, and he put up similar numbers. Jatavian Sanders has a chance to leave Texas as the most statistically prolific tight end in the history of the program. In terms of catches, he's already had the best single season in school history. And playing 3 years, one of those years, he didn't catch a pass. Did not catch a pass in 2021. And he didn't redshirt because he was on the kickoff return team. He played some special teams and ended up playing 10 games in that season while he was really getting adjusted to the position. So you've got a really unique dynamic weapon and a guy that probably, I would say for the first time, Texas has, and you can make the argument that David Thomas was a 5-tool tight end with his athleticism. I would say the last time Texas had a legitimate 5-tool tight end that has all the tools JT Sanders has, probably a healthy Bo Scaife was the last time you had a tight end that had these kind of tools and had the ability to put it all together in terms of his ability as a blocker, hands, vertical threat, ball skills, the whole package. I think a healthy Bo Scaife was the last one you had. And I'm not taking anything away from David Thomas, but people forget what kind of weapon. Like Bo Scaife had 2 very, very serious knee injuries, still got drafted, still played in the NFL, and was good enough in the NFL at one point that the Titans one year used their franchise tag to keep Bo Scaife around. That's how good Bo Scaife was in the NFL after 2 real serious knee injuries at Texas, where Mac Brown once upon a time told him, hey, maybe it's time to start thinking about something else besides football. Maybe you really need to think about your health. That's where I think Ja'Tavion Sanders is, and that's why I think if you're sorry, I think you build this offense around him.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And I also think about how open the offense is going to be, right? Because how many times did we see the 6-man jumbo package, because whether it was the offensive line depth or just not having enough healthy bodies at receiver. This year, you're going to have more depth at the wide-up position, right? You just mentioned Jonte Cook, Isaiah Nair, who in the 247 piece that came out today, he looks really good. He looks really fast, the team source said. So you have Nair, you have DeAndre Moore. I'm missing somebody else. You're going to have a lot of guys, right? So that means you're not going to see the 6-man set.
Ryan Niblett's on campus right now, yeah.
Back on campus. And then also more development, more experience, more reps for your offensive line, right? Sark is going to have a lot more trust going with a 5-man offensive line, right? As opposed to last year where he had to go to the 6-man a lot more than he probably wanted to, right? The offense was, I would say, a little bit hamstrung. And JT Sanders still put up production and did things no other Texas tight end did. Now going the next year, I'm excited because you're going to have a lot more weapons on the field, right? Your defense, I feel like last year they could focus in on Bijan, Worthy, and Sanders. And remember, Worthy was injured. And if you already know what the other play calls come in, and if maybe, defenses are kind of new, Worthy's not 100%, they could hone in and really try and take away Sanders. Going into this season, if Texas can stay healthy, right, on the skill positions with Jay Witt coming back, I forgot about Jay Witt. He's coming back. I feel like it opens up the offense a lot more for Sanders too.
A couple of things here. Stoner says, why did they let that info out that they're changing? Better if opponents think you don't know they have your signs. Well, I mean, they're gonna find out anyway, and that's not like the coaches that's on like Sark telling us, hey, here's what we're doing. Like that's that's finding out information and reporting said information. So if you had to change your signals, you were going to change them anyway, and teams are going to find out. It's not like they're going to know. They're going to be able to tell right off the bat what your signals are anyway. So I don't. And by the way, Cam, that text we got that said their son worked for the West Virginia football program and swore up and down that basically everybody Texas played knew their signals. He did say, for whatever it's worth, it is legit. Yeah. So that is wild. Texas for $5 million a year as head coach. I would have a lip reader on staff and would send some NIL money to coaches' girlfriends. Dude, that's why. Why do you think you see like Andy Reid and guys when you watch them on TV or at all levels? Like I don't know I don't remember if Sark does this or not. But you hold your call sheet. You hold it up over your face.
I've seen him because what he does is he'll crouch down, right? He has a sheet, and I swear a lot of times he doesn't cover it up. And maybe I'm just remembering it wrong, but I remember seeing that and thinking, interesting.
I'm not talking about covering up the play sheet. I'm talking about just covering your mouth.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. I don't see him like, kind of like cover it, like we see with Andy Reid or Sean McVay or Shanahan.
Yeah, I see like Kyle Shanahan. It's almost like Wilson from Home Improvement. Like you just see his eyes most of the time. Every now and then you'll see that sideline shot where you see Shanahan's whole face, but most of the time it's Wilson from Home Improvement. Can we see your whole face, dog?
Who was the NFL coach that had an Applebee's menu as their play call sheet? Was that Doug
I
Peterson?
Vaguely remember that. Let me look at that.
I mean, that's also another option. Go with the fold out. You have 7 pages that includes your starters all the way down to your happy. I mean, maybe that'll throw off some teams too.
I do want to correct myself on the Specs X line. Jonathan Brooks had 2 touchdowns in the bowl game. I was talking about the touchdown reception, but he did have, and I've got the box score in front of me now with 9:50 to go in the game, a 3-yard touchdown run, following an 11-play, 74-yard drive. So my bad. Jonathan Brooks had 2 touchdowns in the bowl game. I threw that in the Google machine, Cam. I I don't see anything about
Oh, Mike McCarthy.
Mike McCarthy.
Look at that. Look at that monstrosity. That's a pamphlet. That's like a PDF, 8 pages. Yeah, and that's the guy calling our plays this year. That's great. I'm really glad I looked that up. I'm going to try and forget that. Great.
Why is it got to be Mike McCarthy with the Applebee's menu as the call sheet? Which y'all have against fat head coaches.
He's just trying to think about what he's going to order after the Cowboys lose to Green Bay. I mean, he's thinking ahead. You got at least he's thinking, right? Thinking about something. Thinking about those baby back ribs.
Dude, I haven't eaten at Applebee's in so long. I can't even tell you what's on the menu there. I really have no idea. Well, last time you ate at Applebee's, Cam?
I think I've eaten there once, and it was with Snoop.
I think there's an Applebee's in Buda. I don't even think my daughter was born yet the last time I ate there.
I do know they have $1
see, now
iced
here
teas.
now the texts are coming. Oh, it would be McCarthy that would have the Applebee's menu.
I have heard they have $1 Long Island iced tea nights.
Hey,
So if you're looking for a little pregame,
back in the day, man, that was there was a time where that was my go-to beverage.
now it's just
The Long Island
Diet
iced tea.
Coke and Jameson.
Now it's just Crystal Light peach tea and Coke Zero and water. It's
Yeah,
pretty much
there you go.
it's pretty much how I roll these days. All right, we'll take a break. Again, your feedback is welcome on the Specs tech line 337-3776. We're saying we come back and hit you with a little inconceivable. We'll do that when we come back on At the Tower on the Horn, live, local, and digital on the Horn app at hornfm.com. Hey, we're talking about the signal stealing piece that's in the Insider, and a fascinating text again from a listener who said their son worked for the West Virginia program and swore that they knew everyone knew Texas signals last year. I always wonder, Cam, with this, and this does fall into inconceivable. I always wonder where is that line, and it's blurred. Where is that line between gamesmanship and doing something nefarious?
Yeah.
Like I remember Bill Parcells told a story one time that they're playing the 49ers, and they were playing them in Giant Stadium. And Bill Walsh said that told the officials right before kickoff that he said, "Hey, our communications gear isn't working. Our headsets aren't working." So when one team's headsets aren't working, both teams lose the ability to use headsets. And apparently the next time they met, like Parcells was like, all right, it's a little gamesmanship. And apparently Parcells just told Bill Walsh the next time they played, he said, look, I respect you, but the next time we have this little headset issue, we're going to have a problem.
Yeah.
And I don't think Bill Walsh ever had a headset problem again for Bill Parcells.
Sadly, I think it's just a part of sports, right?
Yeah.
I mean, go back to the Houston Astros baseball scandal, right? It's like,
sorry, Astros fans.
It's like, as much as I'm anti-Houston Astros, every baseball team cheats. Now, you could argue they don't cheat to the level the Astros did, but, we don't know that. I mean, part of sports is trying to get a leg up on your opponent, right?
Hell, the Patriots, man.
Spygate, yeah.
We're going to talk about,
and if you don't think your favorite team is doing that, you're wrong. Like, I'm sure there's people on Steve Sarkisian's staff, on Texas staff, who are trying to find tips on play calling, right?
Whether that's a GA or an analyst or somebody.
It's not Sark himself looking out for it, possibly,
no,
but there's someone on the staff.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I said. Like, there's certain levels of gamesmanship that I think it's sports, especially at the higher levels where there's a lot of money involved and jobs are on the line.
Yeah,
it's kind of one of those. There is no honor amongst thieves. You know what I mean? Kind of one of those deals. Like you said, everybody does it. It's kind of like if you assume that your favorite college sports program isn't doing something. Well, with NIL's kind of changed the game, but
goodness,
if you don't think that something nefarious is going on, then you're living la la land.
No one's playing it by the book,
and it's one of those deals. It's like nobody can pin down exactly what school A, B, or C is doing, but you just kind of assume, it's just the way it is. So. Stoner says, realize there is no proof that we don't know someone else's signals too. That's true, man. I just told the Greg Robinson story.
Yeah.
The late Greg Robinson. Yeah, Stoner, I saw your text. Greg Robinson's real close to being on the no slander list. Will Muschamp is there and Rod Hurd is there for sure. Both of those guys are there. Cam, did you have anything for Inconceivable today?
Want to do it?
Yeah.
All right. Let's go a little NBA. I know I promised no more NBA talk, but this is really NBA. This is kind of NBA gossip. And Jeff?
Oh, I love.
Do you know where I'm going with this?
You know what's sad? I enjoy the NBA offseason more than I enjoy the NBA season. Like,
it's incredible.
NBA free agency fascinates me.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. It's just I just find it to be highly, highly entertaining.
No, I think you're spot on. I think the regular season has become, less and less important. Look at the Miami Heat. They barely even made it into the playoffs.
Like it's I just want the season to hurry up and get over so we can get the free agency.
So there are two things. First off, the Ja Morant gun scandal, right? Adam Silver said during Levy hopped on
Ja Morant, aka Papa Doc, but go ahead.
Yeah. Adam Silver hopped on NBA Countdown before Game 1 and basically said, kind of hinted at that, Morant's going to get pretty big suspension, right? There was the last video on Instagram Live from one of his boys that showed Morant holding a gun, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's been about 2 weeks. 2 weeks for Ja Morant's PR team, if he has one, to come up with something, right? Do you know what their response was?
Enlighten me.
That it was a toy gun. They spent 2 weeks working on some sort of comeback, and they landed on, it was a toy gun, Adam Silver. Am I crazy to think that a 22, 23 years old is going to own a toy gun?
That on the surface, to me, just hearing that almost makes the story worse. Like, what?
Yeah.
So you got a toy. Why do you have a toy gun? Like, what are you now you really are being a phony tough
Yeah.
guy.
If I'm Adam Silver and let's say, okay, he was going to get 20 games. If I'm Adam Silver and I hear them say, oh, it was a fake gun, you're getting 50 games now for using that stupid excuse.
For real.
That's all I got on John Morant. Real quick, baby mama drama. Zion Williamson involved. Now, if you haven't heard the story, just during your free time away from work, just type in Zion Williamson on Twitter. Last night, or whenever it was, him and his girlfriend, her name is Akima, announced that they were expecting a baby together. So congrats to Zion. But Zion's side chick, adult star Mariah Mills,
Ruh-roh.
not too happy, Jeff. She claims that, one, she also could be pregnant with Zion's baby. She went on a Twitter tirade yesterday saying, I was with you last week in New Orleans. How could you get a random thought pregnant? I love you. I love you. I love you. I helped you get back in shape. Basically just had a full-on breakdown on social media yesterday, finding out that Zion is pregnant with another woman's baby. Oh, it's just, like you said, the NBA offseason, it's the gift that keeps on giving.
Oh, it's crazy. You go back to that 2019 draft, and everybody knows I'm pretty big following the sports card and collectibles market. A lot of that stuff blew up because of the hype around Zion and Ja going 1-2 in that draft.
Mm-hmm.
Luka was a big part of it too, but there was so much buzz, so much hype, so much hope about Ja and Zion. And what are we? 4 years later from those guys getting drafted, what kind of career are either of them going to have at this point? I'm not talking about this. I'm not talking about this stuff with Zion. I'm talking about the fact that he can't stay healthy.
Yeah.
And then Ja, now it's almost like you're just counting down to the next time he just does something stupid to put himself in a bad situation.
The stuff surrounding them right now, it's not good. With Zion, he can't stay healthy, and it appears he's not really trying his hardest in rehab. And then for John Morant, it just seems like either the group around him, his parents, himself, he's just they're both throwing their careers away if they don't figure it out. Because I think without a doubt, Zion Williamson, if he's healthy, he could be an easy top 5 best player in the league. But he just can't stay healthy, and I don't know how much of that is just he doesn't want to play. And New Orleans got this max contract thing with him coming up.
Yeah,
so,
I just that's got to be part of it. I can't think of what else it would be. It's hard for me to imagine a guy that's just kind of whatever when it comes to his basketball career.
I do hope for the game of basketball that they both get it figured out.
If neither of these guys do get it figured out, Kim, you're looking at that 2019 draft. If you take those two out of the equation, Darius Garland is the next best player to come out of that draft, and it's not even close.
Yeah. And Zion, by the way, he did sign a 5-year, $194 million extension. So at least he'll be able to, pay child support if his side chick porn star girl does have another baby. At least he'll be covered for that.
It's wild. All right, that's going to do it for Inconceivable. We'll come back and close out this edition of Light the Tower on the Horn, live, local, and digital on the Horn app at hornfm.com. The dog days of summer are upon us, and man, it's hot outside. It's hot to do anything outside. But you know what that means? That means you can spend time inside your house. And the more time you spend inside the house, you need to make sure that your home entertainment setup is done exactly the way you want it so family can enjoy it. And if it's not, you can upgrade right now. Just get in touch with Tom McKay and the fine folks at Audio Visual Consultations. 512-255-8678. 255-8678 is the number you need to call. I made that call a couple of years ago when I moved down to San Marcos. I was ready to upgrade. And what I love about AV Consultations is Tom McKay came out to my house, took some measurements, and said, hey, this is what you need to go with. I said, you know what? I don't really know if that's going to work, but I'm going to trust Tom. I'm going to trust AV Consultations. I'll trust that crew. And you know what? I have the best home entertainment setup I've ever had in my life. Watching everything on it, whether it's me watching football or having a family movie night, we're watching it on a 75-inch LG TV, hearing it crystal clear sound with a Sonos sound system. Whether you need something smaller, I've seen Tom McKay set up rooms for gamers. You got gaming systems at your house. He can give you the ideal setup for that. Maybe you want the full tilt home theater experience. Get that 150-inch screen. They can make that happen for you. Whatever your needs are, trust me. You're better off just letting AV Consultations take all the worry out of it for you. They will handle everything. You don't have to buy mounting hardware or worry about knocking holes in your wall. You will have a nice, clean, professional setup. And when it's finished, everybody that comes over to your house will know you got done by AV Consultations. Just call right now, 512-255-8678. That's 255-8678. Take it from me and let Tom McKay and Audio Visual Consultations help you realize the home entertainment setup of your dreams. Rolling along here, hour number 2 of Light the Tower. Chad and Zay coming up at the top of the hour. Cameron Parker, Jeff Howard taking you through your late morning into your lunch hour. Craig Way not with us today. He's on his way to Stanford. We were supposed to be wheels up at 11. I'm assuming everything went off without hitch because we've not gotten a dispatch from the voice of the Longhorn, so that usually means everything is good.
As Chad Hastings tells me, if you have not heard from Craig Way, that means everything is going right on cue.
Right. So real quick story. I was supposed to.
Let's hear this.
I was going to the doctor this morning. I was supposed to have an imaging procedure done, and then ended up getting there late. And I was like, wow, this is a shocker. Jeff was late to something. But I had a legitimate excuse. I was picking my shorts up, and so I got there late. And they're like, well, you're here too late. We got to reschedule the procedure. Great. So this is the second time. First time they switched it on me, and now I was late and they had to switch it. So at some point I'll get this done. But I was picking up my shorts off the floor that I wore yesterday. Just kind of, you know how it is. Too tired or lazy or whatever to just put clothes in a hamper. So you just sit on the floor. I was taking my belt off of my shorts. And as I'm pulling the belt off, I felt a pinch and a sting on my finger. I got stung by a scorpion again, Cam.
Again? In your house?
Yes. I got tagged on the leg, on the kneecap, my left kneecap, and the inside of my left thigh last week. And now it was the left knuckle on my index finger. That thing burned. It hurt way more than the one on the leg did. The one on the leg just felt like, I was like, man, something don't feel right. Like, what is that? Like I got an ant bite or something. This one was probably because it's just right on the bone. Like there's no meat on your knuckle. It's just skin and bone. So maybe that just makes it hurt more. Kind of like when I got stung by a red wasp one time. My old house, we had right when we moved in, there was a wasp issue in the chimney. And I guess they got in the house because I'm sitting on the couch and I just feel like this big, like poking, like a sting on my back. And a red wasp tagged me
Jeez.
right in the area of your back where there is no meat. It's just a bone right there. Like you got your transverse processes. That's the Tony Romo back injury. I remember when Romo had that. Cam Newton had that same deal too. The transverse process fracture is the one where you can't really do anything for it. Just you're just kind of screwed.
Yeah.
It's kind of like any kind of tailbone injury. Just sorry, bro. Just sit on a donut.
Play through it. Yep.
Sit on a donut for a while and hope it heals. So yeah, that sucked. Something fierce.
So is your butt okay?
Yeah, because I knew you had the first hour taken care of. You had some guests lined up and everything because we talked last night. I'm like, you know what? At least I got time to get home and get this thing treated a little bit and get an anti-inflammatory. So yeah, it still stings, but
So
I'll live.
I've been stung by I think I don't know, bee once in my life. I've been pretty fortunate. Where do you rank the scorpion bite compared to the other bites?
Right behind red wasp in the back. Yellow jacket in the kneecap.
That's what I've got. Yellow jacket
would be up there too. But yeah, red wasp in the back is rough.
Yeah, I got a yellow jacket.
Thank you, Texter. The bony prominence on the back is the spinous process. Transverse processes go sideways. Thank you, good listener. I want to make sure I'm not putting out false information out there.
There you go.
So, hurt like hell is basically what everybody needs to know. If I get that sting, so yeah.
Are you aware of the oh Lord, I'm gonna get the name wrong. I think it's the tarantula hawk.
Dude, I saw some of this. Yeah, we got like tarantulas invading the area or something.
So I mean, I think we're right in the line where the tarantulas make their move, whatever you want. What's the scientific term for it?
I don't know, but the tarantula in Northwest Williamson County is a strong player in the ecosystem.
Yeah, I need someone on the text line that can get it figured out. But so basically, believe it or not, tarantulas, they have someone that hunts them. And this was tipped to me by our own Derek Cohen. Yep, and there he is. He just texted me, so I know he's listening. He's big into the tarantula hawks because reportedly their sting is the most painful experience out of any insect that's not lethal.
Spiders don't freak me out. I guess some people get really scared by spiders. Spiders do not freak me out.
It's not tarantula, Jeff. It's literally just a hornet.
Oh,
but they call it tarantula hawk because it feeds on tarantulas. Or doesn't feed.
Hawk.
Well, the female predator will lay its eggs in a tarantula, basically just kills them.
Damn.
But they won't migration. Thank you.
So how's this compared to like the murder hornet?
I believe it's worse. I believe there's a YouTube clip. I think it's Corey Peterson. And someone in the Specs text line just texted in about it. YouTube it. The guy basically, now he could be faking it. Basically, he can't move. He gets stung on the arm. He can't move for 5 minutes. He can't move his arm for 5 minutes. But the thing about these insects is that they won't bug you unless you bug them.
So they're like the rattlesnake of the insect family.
Yeah.
Just don't mess with it. Back away, and should be all right.
I didn't know they existed until Derek told me, and he showed me.
I thought you were just talking about tarantulas, but tarantula hawks.
Yes, so it's a little insect. Google it. They're everywhere in this area, apparently. I didn't even know they existed, and so now every time I walk around, I'm a little bit wary of it. But they'll stay away from you.
Okay.
Just, if you see Derek Cohen out in public, stay away from him because I don't know what he's got an infatuation with it, Derek. I don't know what's going on with you and tarantula hawks, but that's a deeper issue we can get into off the air.
No, well, I think Derek should be well versed in insects because I don't think I've ever talked to her about it. I think doesn't Kelly like harvest her own honey, like make her own honey?
Did not know that.
So they're probably Derek.
Okay.
That's probably why Derek is well versed on insects. You got to know this stuff. Got to make sure the bees thrive and live. Kim, my dad was by the end of his time here on this mortal earth. My dad was a big gardener, had a green thumb, and he was always preaching to me about the importance. See, my dad had this weird life transformation. I don't know if it was getting cancer or what, but he went from just into my teen, and maybe it's because I was a teenager and I was just dumb and did dumb stuff. Went from constantly telling me to, remove my head from my backside and kind of what the real world is, to telling me important things like, so we need to make sure don't kill a bee, just let it go. We need to make sure the bees don't die out.
Yeah.
They're important to the ecosystem. I'm like, all right, well, this is not the conversation that I anticipated having, but it's good to know. So anytime I see bees, I try to, my daughter saw some bees. This was about a year ago. Saw some bees playing outside and got scared. So I got a chance to tell my 4-year-old, no, the bees are good. They're good. They, and pollination and carrying pollen and all that fun stuff.
Would you
making honey?
Would you ever consider a career, if you weren't keeping us abreast of all the latest on Texas football, a career of beekeeping?
No, I couldn't do that. Because every time I think about that, like I said, spiders don't freak me out, but like I think I just saw Jackass too many times. There's way too many stunts in that involved bees. Like the time it was Dave England and Steve-O played beehive tetherball.
Oh God, that sounds awful.
Yeah, it was rough. It was rough. It was hilarious.
Texter said, I jumped off a tractor because of a spider. Big banana spider. What's a banana spider?
I don't know. There's a mosquito hawk that feeds on mosquito larvae. Well, that's gross. Tarantula hawks are effing huge and scary. After they sting, they carry them off. That's kind of sadistic. This texter says, took a red wasp sting to the back of the neck, hurt like hell. Saw somebody else say that, I think it was Pastor Smasher said, the red wasp behind the ear. That sounds pretty tough. There's a show on Hulu called Pain Kings about how painful insect stings are. They rate them on a 30-point scale. Centipedes are the most painful, according to them. And this texter said, you guys are freaking me out. I'm not going outside.
They won't harm you, apparently, unless you harm them first.
I was in Academy a couple of weeks ago trying to find shoes and didn't find any, but I heard somebody asking one of the Academy employees, y'all carry snake boots? I'm like, oh, y'all getting ready to go do some serious business if you need to go buy snake boots. Anytime you're messing around in the brush, you got to make sure you got your snake boots on. You ever had to wear snake boots for anything, Cam?
No, fortunately I've not.
Back in North Carolina, y'all had the big old Eastern Diamondbacks, right?
Yeah.
Which you got to watch out for.
Yeah, but I wasn't out like that where I was in danger.
Where you had to worry about the unfriendly Eastern Diamondback rattlesnake.
Found out banana spiders, so they're kind of like garden
I think banana
spiders.
spider is a wolf spider, the yellow and black ones, maybe. I don't know.
It's a big yellow and black one.
Okay.
It's not the same thing as, apparently it's kind of like, because I grew up with a lot of garden spiders, but they don't harm you. They're just literally in your garden. They hang up big webs, and they're pretty big suckers, but they stay away from you. Actually, my mom used to collect tarantulas as a kid. When we lived briefly in Round Rock, because we had a big open field that's now, of course, been demolished for development. But we were inside the tarantula migration zone, so we would keep them around the house, just as for a little fun and let them out.
Mm-hmm. Bizarro Dale Dudley has one of those jobs. He's a surveyor. Snake boots are a necessity, but damn, they are hot. Well,
yeah, I bet.
Little discomfort. I think better than a snake bite on top of the foot or something along those lines. All right, Cam. Great job today, man. And apparently, based on the Specs text feedback, I got to go on a YouTube rabbit hole with Coyote Peterson. Apparently, he takes insect stings and tries to figure out.
That's the guy. I think I said Chris Peterson, who's a former football coach
former
at Washington.
Boise State and Washington head coach.
I think he's on Fox Sports now. Maybe he's doing his own pain.
Hi, I'm Chris Peterson. Welcome, Jackass. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's one of those deals, but Coyote Peterson might be on the agenda.
Jeff,
Cam,
what's your schedule this week? So we know, because we know Texas plays Stanford Saturday.
Well, I'll be here tomorrow.
Okay.
So we'll go find some low-hanging fruit in Florida, talk a little more Texas football, talk a little Texas baseball. I'm assuming Craig will be with us, but you know how it is when he's doing setup on press conference day. Craig could be with us for 10 minutes. He'd be with us for the whole show. He could be with us not all. So.
I think from when I talked to him yesterday, you should expect listeners to get some Craig way.
At least a little bit.
And if not, Texas plays baseball on Saturday, Sunday, and maybe even Monday.
If necessary, on Monday. All right, Cam, thanks, man. You did a great job today. Thank you, everybody, on the Specs text line for your feedback. For the absent Craig Way, for Cameron Parker, I am Jeff Howe. Thank you so much for listening, and we will be back tomorrow to conclude your broadcast week and to light the tower on the Horn, live, local, and digital, on the Horn app and at hornfm.com.